Welcome, welcome. My name is MunsterMash, and this year I will be host of the Captain Hindsight pod for the SC Hub. This is one of our new pods that we are running for the year, and this will be covering the armband options that everyone should be looking at each week. Uh, Welcome to everybody listening or watching, and we'd love to see feedback in the comments here on the video. So please feel free to leave who you think you'll be going with for armbands, who you think will be potentially top scorers, any other tips that you may have. I'd love to get some comments and discussion going. Also, feel free to join the Discord to get the discussion going. It's a great spot for the rest of the season, and we'd love for everybody to show us support by liking and subscribing the videos. Look, it not only helps us support us, but helps get our content out to more people, and more people can then see what we have to offer and hopefully get a bit of help with their SuperCoach for the year. So as I mentioned, this podcast is to discuss the armbands for the year. For those that are new to SuperCoach NRL, this is, or SuperCoach in general, I should say, this is vice captain and captain. So that's the blue armbands and orange armbands that you would see in your team selector. Your captain score gets doubled. Your vice captain is a backup if the captain doesn't play. But this is such an important part of SuperCoach now. We found year on year that the people that get the best captain scores across the whole year tend to be towards the pointy end of the rankings for overall. So it is really important, and it also helps you win your head-to-heads, and when you get into finals and things like that. It's just such an important part, and it's why we've also seen a trend towards players like Cleary, your fullbacks. They're the ones that can get those top scores, and they're the ones that will be hunting. So, as is the title of the video, this is Captain Hindsight. So we will also be reviewing the top scores from the previous week. We'll be tracking how we go throughout the year, keeping a tally of what our choices are, what scores they are, what average that is for our captaincy choice, and you'll get to follow along. So hopefully we get more right than we get wrong. Ideally, I would love to have an average of at least 85 for the Captain Hindsight video, but we'll see. Sometimes we get them right, sometimes we get them wrong. So we'll be looking at things like form, matchups, how players have gone historically against different clubs, stuff like that. So hopefully, yeah, I've got a bit of information for you. So let's dive in. Look, round one, everyone's super excited, and this weekend we have Vegas. So that means Warriors, Canberra, Sharks, and the Panthers. And there's a couple of choices that are immediately popping up through those games. So one of the top choices currently in SuperCoach for the captaincy and for vice captaincy, that is as well, is Nathan Cleary. So as we can see here, his average against the Sharks historically is pretty good, 83.9. So that's what we want to see from our captaincy and vice captaincy options. Last year, he actually didn't play the Sharks, so we don't have any scores from last year. But this year before, there was a 109. So that is ideal. That is just what we want from a captaincy option. And I think we can see that from what people have selected as well. 19% for captaincy, 19% vice captaincy at time of recording. I think he'll be the most popular VC choice, not necessarily my pick, but I think he'll be the most popular one for the weekend. And look, I don't blame anyone. It's have a role in the Vegas games, makes it more interesting and more exciting to watch. So the big thing for me, and this is why I'm not as big on Cleary as others, as we can see from the stats overall for everyone, is that his first games over the last few years make for dire reading. So this is when he's coming back from basically it's the first game of the season for the last 3 years. And we can see here that there's a 36, a 53, and a 34. And that is poison for a vice captain. We want somebody that has that really high upside, and Nathan does. but he hasn't shown it over the last few years. So for me, I think he's definitely a VC option. I wouldn't risk the C, not when we've got games next week, and I think with better choices next week. But for me, look, he's a VC option for sure. You give yourself that second chance, but I would only have him as a VC, and I wouldn't put him as the number one pick. The other big name for captaincy choices, in my opinion, for Vegas is Nicho Hynes. Now, this hasn't been matched in the captaincy picks overall. He's really low at the moment. So his captaincy is only 1.3% and vice captaincy is 3.8. I think a lot of that is to do with Duffy, and a lot of people are now running probably Cleary and Duffy as their halfback choices. But for those that are going with Nicho, yeah, this is not good reading at all. He struggles against the Panthers and has done so for a few years now. We can see here his average against the opposition is 33.8, including a score of 3 last year. That was injury affected in about mid 30 minutes, but it's poor. That 22 as well from the year before, that's from a full 80. So yeah, we know the Panthers historically have been one of the best defensive sides for SuperCoach and have been so for the last number of years, and it's why they're 4-time reigning premiers. Look, for me, I think Nicho is an absolute no-go, and I think this is something people should be strongly considering when they're looking at him. If you go and say, do I go Nicho or a third gun fullback, this might be what swings you one way or another. It's certainly swung me one way. Yeah, look, I think Nicho's a great option, but I don't think with the Panthers he's the right choice. There's a few other good options for the Vegas games that if you want to take a punt on maybe someone a bit safer, someone like an AFB or possibly even maybe like a Yo. But they were, the reading wasn't great on those. And I personally think because there's better options for next week, that's where our focus has been for this week. So on to the players for next week. And the ones that really stand out to me and have been matched a little bit by the armbands and how people are looking at them is number 1, Reece Walsh. He's currently sitting 5th overall in most popular captaincy choice at 2.5%, and he's got a 3% VC armband. And while the stats don't read amazing, but because he's one of the earlier ones, he's on the Thursday night next week, I think that's what makes him a decent VC option. His average against the Roosters historically is 54.3. So not amazing, which is why I wouldn't recommend a C, but maybe the VC is the way to go. He did have some half decent scores last year, including that 73 in Vegas, funnily enough. So he has shown that he can get it done. But the big thing for this one is how you view the Roosters. If you think that they will at least continue their defensive shape, that they've been one of the better defensive sides over the last few years for SuperCoach, does that continue? They've got a lot of outs. And the Broncos, they looked electric in those trials. They were the preseason winners, as I think a lot of people would know. And yeah, I think the stars could be aligning for him to start hot against the Roosters. He looked good. The Knights tore up their left edge, and we know that that's where Reece likes to attack, and that's where it looked really dangerous during those trial games. So while the previous scores don't make for great reading, what happens in 2025 with the Roosters and their defense? I think Reece could capitalize, and I think he's a sneaky good VC option. But he's not the most popular. The most popular VC choice after Nathan Cleary, and who I think, as a bit of a spoiler, is going to be the best VC option for this week, is Kalyn Ponga. His scores look really, really good against the Tigers, and this is why he's currently at 14.1% captaincy and 14.5 VC. So yeah, people have seen his previous history against the Tigers. and it's amazing. He's got 3 tons in his last 5 games against them. He had a 124 last year, a 137 the year before. That one was an injury-affected game. So, yeah, if you discount that, that's 300s in his last 4 games. Yeah, which is amazing. This is what we're looking for with our armbands. This is how you super coach. So, with that, yeah, I think he is the lock and load VC option, but I wouldn't blame anyone for even going slightly pottish and putting the C on him as well. You would have to go an earlier game for your VC, so like a Reece Walsh, maybe a Nathan Cleary. And yeah, but I definitely think he needs to have one of your armbands this week if you have him in your team. He's one of the best choices. Now, the most popular captaincy choice for this week, comfortably. Well, not okay. I take that back. Not comfortably, but he is the most popular choice at time of recording is Tom Trbojevic, and I think that this will increase as we get closer to the Vegas games and then through next week. We all know that when he's on his day, he's probably the most dangerous person for accumulating points. His ceiling is higher than anyone, or I would, yeah. There's very, very few players that can match what Tom does at his peak. And his games at 4 Pines Park, especially last year, amazing. That's where he's playing the Cowboys this week. Yeah, it's good reading. His average against the Cowboys is 85, which is very respectable. But the big stat that I think a lot of people are flocking to and what they've looked at is, his average at 4 Pines, and his 7 games last year, his average at 4 Pines, he had a 101 average. That's insane. 5 of those games out of the 7 win 90 plus. It's a dream read for stats. So he's the most popular captaincy choice, and for good reason. He's it looks great. I don't think I need to convince anyone else. I think he's the premium C option for this week, and I think he will be most popular come the games next week. So we all do know that SuperCoach can be a little bit lower scoring in the early days of the season. So let's say you want to play a safer option, that someone that really builds the base stats a bit more compared to some of these other options that rely more on attack than this player, even though he does like to find the attack. And someone that you might also not have considered for a C option, but if you've got him in your team, Harry Grant's stats against the Eels are really good recently. As we can see from the stats on the screen here, his average against them is 86.6, which is the highest out of all of the options we've discussed today. His recent form against the Eels is amazing. You can see there from his last 4 games, 116, 58, 91, 149. Yeah, amazing. So it seems to be they're one of his teams that he does like to ton up against, and he has done so in the past. So while this is something that, if you've got him and you want that sort of safer option that, their floor might be sort of more of a 60 compared to maybe a 40 or a 50 that some of these halves and that can throw up, Harry Grant might be the guy to go for. He's also a pod pick. So at the moment, his captaincy choice is only at 4%, and that could potentially be from teams that have not yet set it. We know that the default option is your hooker. So who knows? That 4% could be lower, could be higher, but I think he is a sneaky option if you want a pod captaincy and maybe want to roll the VC on someone like Ponga, or possibly even Turbo. That being said, you need to make sure that you've got somebody available for the loot, whether it's somebody on a buy like Tino, or somebody that plays in the later games off the round. Anyway, that just about covers us for this week. These videos are going to be short and sweet each week. We will be going a bit longer as we get into the season. As I mentioned earlier, we will be tracking how we go with those picks, tracking the stats, and overall just, how we go throughout the year. Hopefully we can get a really good average for our captaincy, and we'll see how it goes. But to finish off, what we're going to go with is show what our picks are for the captain hindsight, I guess, choice for the week. You would have already guessed it. Tommy Turbo as the captain, Kalyn Ponga as your VC. The stats look amazing for both of them. You can, especially with the flex now, you can now do this with the two fullbacks. So we might as well start taking advantage of it straight away. They are the positions with generally the highest upside. We've seen it in the past. The fullbacks score the best. So this is my recommendation for the week. Tommy Turbo as your captain, Kalyn Ponga as VC. Now, if I get it wrong, don't hold it against me. I'm just going by what the stats say. Doesn't always get it right, but we'll see if we can. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. As I said, I'll be back each week doing this round on round throughout the season. I fully recommend watching our other short form videos throughout the year as well. The breakdown with Cheese, Pod Hunters, and the trade market. They'll kick off more, obviously, as we get into the season. And I also recommend, jump into the Discord. Look, the SC Hub is an amazing resource. You can bounce ideas off people, keep up to date with news as people find it and share it. They can give you reviews on teams. It's, an amazing resource. So please jump in. There's so much more in there to find as well. So jump in. As I mentioned earlier, please like and subscribe for the SC Hub channel. We'll be having constant videos throughout the year. All your support will help us just get our content out, reach more people, and hopefully be able to provide you guys with more content for SuperCoach. If you're like me, you just consume it all. And all right. Anyway, thank you for listening. Best of luck with picking your final teams for round 1 for Vegas. Enjoy the games. Hopefully your team gets up, unless they're the Eels, because I want the Storm to win. So I hope you have a great round 1 and a great season for SuperCoach. Thanks.